I'm Chris Cuomo. What do you say? Let's get after it. The word of the day is rescue, not release. That's what just happened in the hunt for hostages in Israel. Resulted in 4 being saved. But why don't the normal rules apply when it comes to Israel? Hamas stole people, made them hostages. They refuse to return them. Israel is forced to hunt them down, just like every other country would. They find them. They get into a bloody battle. Hundreds are killed. They manage to free 4 of the hostages. And then the media, especially the anonymous hordes on social media, say the hostages were released. No, they were rescued. Listen.
This morning at 11 a.m., Israeli Special Forces conducted complex hostage rescue mission and successfully rescued 4 of our hostages from Hamas captivity in Gaza. They are back home in Israel. They are alive. They are well.
No rescue, no deal. Hamas had nothing to do with this except to try to make it not happen. They failed. Among those rescued, you see on your screen, 26-year-old Noah Argamani. Now, Argamani was a real symbol of the October 7th attack. Do you remember the video of her being kidnapped? Here it is, going viral, screaming, "Don't kill me," her arms stretched out to her boyfriend also being kidnapped. Today, Israel released intense body cam footage of the rescue of the other 3 male hostages. And just to put this to bed once and for all about, oh no, they were released. You're trying to give Hamas a bad name. You don't have to give Hamas a bad name. It's a terror organization. Watch the video, please. What?
כנס. אחד איתי. עברית, אין פה כולם. הנה, פה. שם. אנדרי. 3 שונים בידי. 3 שונים. הכל בסדר, אני מחלץ אתכם כאילו את זה. יש.
They got 4, but what does it mean for the others? What does it mean for the Americans? Okay? Now, there's another controversy regarding the hostages also, or maybe it isn't. We're going to discuss it. The United States is supposedly, reportedly, considering a deal directly with Hamas terrorists to return the American hostages. Let's bring in John Spencer, the Urban Warfare Studies Chair at West Point's Modern War Institute, and Frank Lowenstein. He's a former U.S. Special Envoy for Israel, Israeli-Palestinian negotiations. It's good to have you both. First of all, hold me to it. Am I wrong? Was there something coordinated about this, that it was kind of a release, or is it obvious that it is what we saw, John? I'll start with you. This is a rescue. Hamas was not trying to help this happen.
Chris, I think you're 100% right, and it is clearly obvious that was a very risky hostage rescue operation. The thing that I think is obvious is when all these other news agencies use the words they know that matter. They use the word freed or released. That is absolutely done on purpose. So you are 100% right. Use the right words. These people were freed, not free, they were rescued by Israel in this very dangerous hostage rescue operation, very historic. And what you see on that video is, again, contrary to, I'm sure what we'll discuss, is the counter narrative at what cost, very, very destructive. You saw some very elite soldiers enter a very targeted location where they knew the hostages were being held by Hamas and by civilians.
Frank, what am I missing here from a messaging perspective? Why would anybody call this a release?
I really have absolutely no idea. It was obviously a hostage rescue mission. The Israelis are really good at this, going back to Entebbe. So they deserve full credit for it. I think the real issue is that a model that you can use to get the other Haiti hostages out? Right? Obviously, this is a very complicated mission. A lot of civilians were killed, and the hostages were at great risk. So is this something that's sustainable for Israel going forward or not? I think that's really the question.
Yeah, but it's not sustainable. They're supposed to give them back. You know, there's this whole charade going on that may make more sense to you, Frank, because you've been involved with these kinds of situations before. Now we hear the United States may be doing a unilateral deal with Hamas. What happened to not negotiating with terrorists? I guess that went out, with the Taliban and al-Qaeda and everybody else we negotiated with. But supposedly the latest reporting is that Israel is okay with the United States cutting a side deal with Hamas. Do you believe that? And do you believe that's the right move for the U.S.?
Well, I think we need to do everything we possibly can to get our folks out of there. The real question in my mind is, what are we actually going to offer Hamas in return? You know, they want prisoners that are in Israeli jails right now. I don't know if we really have anything we can give them in return for our hostages. But whatever we can offer them, we should absolutely do it because we need to get those folks home.
John, what is the risk of offering Hamas anything?
Right. That's the true question, is what could we possibly offer Hamas that wouldn't be counterproductive to the rest of the hostages coming home or Israel's mission? We believe there's a shared ground between negotiating sides, that both sides want to see innocent people no longer harmed in the continuation of the war, when that, in fact, is the exact opposite of what Hamas says. They actually want more innocent people hurt. So how do you negotiate with somebody who doesn't have that shared understanding, where the only thing you can offer them is continued survival, and then means more prisoners, more support? I couldn't see. I agree, all means need to be tried, but anything Hamas could be given that wouldn't be counterproductive to the rest of the hostages coming home.
Yeah, Chris, we had an interesting
what do you make? Go ahead, Frank.
Well, we had an interesting experience with this in 2014, trying to negotiate a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. We were working through the Qataris, and Hamas was holding out for just outrageous demands. And finally, Secretary Kerry said, well, what do they really want out of this? They're obviously not going to get that. And the foreign minister said to us, they would rather die than continue to live this way. It's just really difficult to negotiate with people that have nothing left to lose. And it's really difficult to increase pressure on a bunch of ruthless terrorists hiding in tunnels, already bearing the full weight of the IDF trying to take them out every day. So just very little leverage we really have over the Hamas in this situation.
But Frank, isn't the answer regional? Isn't it having the Arabs stepping up and saying, look, Hamas, you got to get out, okay? And we're going to have elections there. The Gazans have to decide who they want to represent them, and it can't be a terror organization. Doesn't it have to be regional?
Yeah, that would be great. The problem is that we don't really have any allies in that region of any influence over Hamas whatsoever. The only folks that could maybe put a little pressure on them would be Iran. But obviously, we're not having any kind of conversations with the Iranians right now. So, and Hamas, you got to remember, they don't care what happens at the UN Security Council. They don't care what the Jordanians or anybody else, the Saudis, tell them. These are hardened terrorists hiding in tunnels, prepared to die, for their cause. So it's just difficult to negotiate with them.
Yeah, and it's not
Frank is right, John, but hold on, John, let me give you some context, then you go where you want. They're not that ready to die, right? Because they are hiding in highly populated areas, like where they were keeping Noah Aramani. They know what they're doing, and what they're doing is they're playing the coward's game. They're hiding among populations, and they're using them as shields. And given that, though, John, if these were Americans that, this was a different war at a different time, we would have gone in just as heavy, if not heavier, and probably sooner. What's your take on those 2 points, John?
You're 100% right. You don't have to take my word. Take General Milley, who was the Joint Chief of Staff for many years, who said we would have went immediately with overwhelming force to bring our people home and to stop the rockets from falling. And I, as an American, wanted my fellow citizens home a lot earlier, and many of the efforts have constrained those operations for Israel to achieve those goals. On the part about, Hamas has nothing left to lose, it's hard to negotiate when they're under attack. Hamas themselves, like you, Chris, you've watched, has said over and over again, I don't have the goals that you're trying to push on me. I don't have this goal of a Palestinian state alongside of Israel. My goal is, according to Hamas, to get as many of my people killed to achieve my political objective, which is not living side by side in a two-state solution, but the complete erasing of Israel off the map and the death of all Jews around the world. How do you negotiate with that, Chris?
You can't. I mean, Frank, that's the tortured part of all this, that Israel is being put on equal footing with a terror organization. And they're taking a beating here at home. Frank, I mean, the messaging is that Hamas are the victims in this, and Israel is at once David, but really more Goliath. Well, that's what we've been seeing on campuses. That's what we're hearing on the political left. I mean, why don't the normal rules apply when it's Israel, which is you stole our people, you tried to kill us, now we're going to come for you. That's what happens every other time it happens.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question that Israel has every right to try to take Hamas out and of course, to try to rescue the hostages. I think the question is how many civilians die along the way and how much humanitarian assistance is restricted getting in there. Because the civilian population in Gaza is really caught in the middle here. Yahya Sinwar, who's the head of Hamas, said he doesn't care if 100,000 Palestinian civilians die in this. So you have a guy who just does not care how many of his own people
No, they're just martyrs.
Killed. Yeah, it's all
just
in
martyrs.
furtherance of the cause, and it's outrageous.
Yeah.
The difficult part of it is just that they don't care what anybody thinks or says. They don't abide by the same sort of rules and norms and standards that we do. So we keep thinking, well, why wouldn't Hamas take this? They can get some prisoners out and get some humanitarian assistance in. They don't care.
Right.
They would rather die. They would rather have thousands of Palestinian people killed if it helps them advance the cause. And I think they believe that Israel's in trouble right now. They're isolated in the international community. Obviously, they're getting sided with the Biden administration. Yeah. And I don't think they're in any hurry to bail them out of that. And it's really unfortunate.
The key is the aid. The one that I believe if we're going to criticize the IDF, I'm sure they have the right. It's about how they exercise the right. Aid has been what exposes them as being cruel and being not invested in doing this the least damaging way possible. They've made a mistake with aid. They have rationales for it, but it's wrong. The second mistake they've made that they're continuing to make, which I hope they reverse both, the aid and this, let the media in. Stop blocking people like me from going to Gaza and seeing what's happening for ourselves. It is not your job to keep us safe, and it is killing you in terms of having a fair story be told. Frank Lowenstein, John Spencer, I appreciate you both. Thank you for your perspective. To be continued. 4 minutes, 5 seconds coming up. Now, look, you hear what I'm talking about here. I mean, you don't need me to tell you. You saw what happened on the campuses, right? You saw how sympathy for Gazans, which you should have, is being misconstrued as Hamas being victims, Hamas being freedom fighters. That's the perversity. Now, is it spreading? Well, the kids went home. Well, yeah, but not everybody went home. Did you see what happened at one of the gay pride parades? A millionaire investment banker in New York City says he was confronted by anti-Israel protesters and assaulted, but that's not what the video shows. Here's the video. Look what the video shows. He's walking along. He's not happy. Bink. He just punched what appears to be a woman at this weekend's pride parade. He says, hey, you're missing the story. There's a lot more. This isn't lawlessness on the streets. It's a sign of the times. Let's go through it and get Geraldo's take. Next. Viral video that shows the state of play in our society. Have you seen this? Jonathan Kay is the name of the guy you're going to see on the video. He's a successful investment banker in New York City. The video shows him punching what appears to be a woman at a Brooklyn gay pride event. The immediate rush to judgment on social media played Kay as a gay basher. He says, no way, that what we saw was only the end of an altercation that began with him being harassed by 4 people in a group called Queers for Palestine, of course, about the war. It got physical. Some mystery liquid was poured on his shirt. And then we see the video of him landing an overhead right in this person's face. Here's how it went.
Oh my God. Stop. You are a horrible person. Go yourself. Yeah. Go yourself.
The woman later posted that the punch broke her nose and that Kay also hurt another person in the scuffle. Sources close to Kay defended him, saying it was an anti-Semitic attack, that he was hurt in the encounter as well that happened before the one that we see. And photographs show that he did have cuts and blood around his ankles, in addition to images of the red liquid that had been poured on his shirt before he punched that person. What's going on? What does this mean? Let's bring in NewsNation correspondent at large, Geraldo Rivera. Good to see you, handsome.
Hey,
what's your take on this?
Well, I'm pretty easy to provoke, and I've had my share of brawls over the years, Chris, as you know. And I don't know what happened before the video that I see, but that overhead right to that, he's lucky that he didn't kill her. You see the way she lands on the pavement and her head snaps back. You see in all the movies, it could have easily been a homicide. Now, provocation is not a defense. It may be a mitigation. Self-defense is a defense if you can prove that you reasonably feared bodily harm to yourself or even death. That's why you responded with violence. But, to me, this guy should be charged criminally and then defend himself. I mean, that shot, that was a massive, massive blow to her head. And she could have really, it would have been a much more serious story if it was more than a broken nose and it was a broken neck, Chris. Okay,
let me play devil's advocate here. First of all, I'm assuming it is a woman. I don't mean that as a joke. I don't know, at the Pride Parade, you don't know. You have trans people there. You have a lot of different people there. It matters in terms of this guy's self-defense argument. If that was, a female by any definition, fine. If it was a transgender person or if it was a transvestite, it may be a different situation. But here's the provocative point. At the end of the day, is this just what we're asking for? That you have people coming up in your face, asking you if you're Jewish. This is the kind of story that this guy Kay is saying happened, that he was baited into this, and that it was made anti-Semitic about him. I mean, what do you expect people to do? I mean, before the law changed, fighting words used to be a thing, Geraldo. Somebody came up to you and said stuff that they knew were reasonably calculated to piss you off in a way that would provoke violence. You got what you asked for.
I totally get that, and I've always been, willing and able to use my hands to defend myself. And I'm all for self-defense and intervening when someone else is assaulted. You putting yourself on the line. So to help create a safer situation. But this, I don't know this guy. I don't know what was said to him. Mere words is not enough. I mean, if I always had a rule: make them touch you first. If they touch you first, well, the old thing, knock that chip off my shoulder. Once they have physical contact with you, then as a practical matter, you can then do what you have to do to protect yourself and your dignity and your space.
Well, he says
I just don't see it in this video. He says
he was hurt. He says, you do not see it in the video. And let me be very clear. Right. The wounds are weird down around his ankle, but, that's going to be a material part for him also. And let's be very clear. If that's a woman, you can call me a sexist, but it's off the table. Unless she's coming at him with a knife or a gun, you punch a woman, you're done, as far as I'm concerned. There's no defense for that. You can't say, she was coming at me. If she doesn't have a weapon that could kill you in that moment, and it is a woman, he's got a problem. But here's the flip side, and then I want to ask you about another provocative situation. What are the Jews supposed to do, Geraldo? People can say whatever they want to Jewish people. You come up and they're like, you're killing everybody. I'm glad that this happened to you. You're the great oppressor. I mean, they can't defend themselves. Everything that they say, they wind up being a bully. Why don't the rules apply when it comes to Israel? It seems like they have a different burden.
I'm with you on that. Absolutely, my brother. As a Jewish man with the thin skin, I have used my physical abilities to defend myself and the things that I believe in and hold dear. But you can't clip a chick on the chin. What's the difference between what he did and what some crazy black guy did on the subway? or what they did when they were punching the Asian women they were walking past.
Right.
Remember when that was the craze for a few minutes there. And, just because this guy's a slickster and a successful and a billionaire, millionaire, whatever it is, and I appreciate Jews for too long have taken it on the chin. I appreciate people, all walks of life, who stand up for their rights and they do the right thing and their personal dignity and to help, the general attitudes in the community. But this doesn't seem that. I mean, and again, it's the lie. Could be the lie of the video.
Especially if that's a woman.
Just seemed that he clipped someone a lot smaller.
Especially if that's a woman, though. But if that's a woman, he's done, as far as I'm concerned. I'm not saying he should lose his life or anything like that. His livelihood. But if it's a woman, you can't hit her. I don't care what happened to you before. Unless she has a deadly weapon pointed at you, he's going to have problems. All right, let me switch to another kind of social moray thing where you and I aren't as aligned, but maybe we'll wind up that way. Hunter Biden beats this case one way, okay? And it's almost jury nullification, meaning they just take the case away from the facts. And it's going to be based on sympathy for his addiction. That there are a lot of people on that jury who are going to say, look, I have an addict in my life. He probably didn't believe he was an addict. He was living in denial. And this isn't the kind of crack addict that we don't want having weapons. It's not like he used it to steal money for his addiction or anything like that. I don't think this is worth what's happening. You seem to have a much harsher appraisal of him as an addict. You keep beating him up on social media about being a junkie and a derelict. Why? Why aren't you, Captain Compassion,
and a whoremonger,
more understanding about his addiction? And a whoremonger, yes. Not you. Because that's what you're calling. That's what you're calling Hunter.
I appreciate that. First of all, I don't think that. I think he's going to beat the case. I think he's going to be acquitted. At worst, it'll be a hung jury, and it won't be sympathy for him, the devil. It will be sympathy for his family and his mom. His mom going off to Normandy and flying back and doing the commute back and forth so she could be in court, and the Biden family rallying around him and appearing in court. And so the jury knew they were so obvious, their presence, that the prosecutor referenced them. He had to, because that urban jury in Wilmington is going to give him a get out of jail free card. Now, I'm not going to waste my anger or my sense of self-righteousness and say he's not deserving of the pity and the sympathy. He's irrelevant. What to me the headline was, the noble Biden family unites. They go to court in all of their pain, all of their, the weaknesses are exposed. Poor Hallie, the widow of Bo, and then the lover of this dirtbag who got her into crack cocaine. And, to see them all there, to see his daughter, his adult daughter, I think her name is Naomi, she's in court and she's being asked these awful, visceral questions. And then, about her using, or her dad using, and he's on the hood of a car and he's waiting for Mookie to come by. To me, I love them. I was overwhelmed with compassion for the Biden family. The fact that he is an undeserving recipient of that abundant love is just one of those things, Chris.
Why is he undeserving?
Because, I used plenty of drugs in my long years. Never cocaine, but I used plenty of the ecstasy and those kinds of things over the years. Remember, I'm a child of the Studio 54 and the 70s and all that. I know when you have free will. I know when you're having a good time, and when you're in extremis. This guy was coasting. You look at those videos, he's laughing, he's totally compos mentis. He's the cock of the walk, and he's got plenty of shots of that, by the way, in his videos and so forth. He just, why? And I feel so badly for his parents. I feel so badly for them, and I keep coming back to that, because every family at some point along the line has been touched. And that's why another reason is going to beat this case is that jury, 6 men, 6 women, mostly black, mostly from the urban area of Wilmington, where Biden got over 60% of the vote, enormously sympathetic to the Biden family because of their own, their own tumult, their own pain and agony over the years, their own anguish. They look at the prosecutor and say, why are you bringing this case? This is a case that's never brought. Bringing a case about a guy who makes an X on an application. When was the last time? I asked the federal special prosecutor, when was the last time the federal government brought a case of this nature when there was not another crime committed once the weapon was bought? This is a guy that I don't even know if he ever took the weapon out of the box. 11 days he had, and then his poor ex has to throw it in a supermarket dumpster. Ridiculous. But he's the architect of their misery. It's not the state. It's Hunter. Hunter is the one that dragged down his family. He's the one that put them through the anguish. He's the one that hit on his brother's widow. I have contempt for him. But I love the family so much, I will applaud the acquittal, or at least I'll have a sense of, at least they're not being hurt anymore, Chris.
I was wrong about Trump, his case. I thought it was going to be hung. I'll be maybe wrong about this one, too. I don't think he's getting acquitted. But we'll watch it together. And, Geraldo, I appreciate your perspective, as always. Thank you, my friend.
Appreciate you, brother. I appreciate you. All right, my brother.
You're the best. 4 minutes and 30 seconds. I got to tell you, Bo Biden would have had everybody's vote. Left, right, and reasonable. What a shame he was lost so soon and for the worst reasons. Up next, 6-year-old Corey. You know this little boy's story. Gorgeous kid, should never have died, let alone the way he did. The video of him being forced to run on a treadmill pissed us all off to no end. But guess what? Child Protective Services. What is their responsibility here? More than you may suspect. And NewsNation is going to get answers. Next. Six-year-old Corey killed by his own father. But that's not where the story ends. We all saw his father force Corey to run over and over on a treadmill, bit the kid's head. He was tried and found guilty of aggravated manslaughter. Now, Corey's mother, Brianna, told us she reached out to Child Family Services in New Jersey more than 100 times in about an 18-month period, saying he's hurting this kid, desperate that the custody sharing arrangement with the father was putting Corey at risk. Nothing changed. I spoke to Brianna after the verdict last week, and I asked her if CPS had seen the treadmill video and still allowed Corey to stay with the father. Here was her answer.
The video that everyone's seen, the treadmill video, that it's disgusting, it's horrible. DCPMP had that a week before Corey passed away, in March 2021, a week before he passed.
They had seen this?
Yes.
And they did not go to the house? They didn't do anything?
So I think they went to his house and documented his bruises, and that's as far as it went.
I just don't understand. You're looking at a list of people that we approached, okay? We tried to do this the right way, the nice way, all right? The team reached out, asked everybody to come in and tell us the story. You know, they're overwhelmed, they're understaffed, here's what they thought, how they processed it differently, here's what the father said, here's what they also knew. Fill in the blanks. But they all iced us. You know what? I'm going to give you a little inside scoop about this business. Very often, the powerful believe they win, and they will decide whether or not they talk to you, especially when the government is involved. But not on this, not on our watch. So we decided to do shame campaign. If they're not going to talk to us the nice way, they're going to talk to us anyway. NewsNation went with a camera to confront one of the caseworkers involved. I want you to pick up the attitude. Here's what happened.
Excuse me, Miss Epps. with NewsNation would like to know if you'd like to comment on Corey Michelot's death.
I cannot. I'm sorry.
Why can you not comment?
Because my job won't allow me. I'm sorry.
They won't let you talk?
No.
But you would like to?
I'm sorry.
She's sorry. She's sorry about what? That she can't talk because her boss won't let her talk? I mean, what else? And by the way, that was Rich McHugh, okay? He was nice. All right, it's not like we were coming up there and being like the big bad wolf, right? She didn't have to run away from him the way she did. But she wanted to. Why? She doesn't want to deal with this, okay? Her bosses don't want to deal with it, and they think they won't have to. And all of that sucks. So we are not going to let it go. And I have you on notice right now. If you are one of the people who was involved with Corey's case, get ready to have a little bit different experience when you're on your way to work and walking around. Because at some point, you're going to say hello to one of us. You don't get to duck this when a kid dies this way. Jonathan Hatami is one of the few people who tried to actually criminally prosecute caseworkers after the death of a different kid, 8-year-old Gabriel Fernandez. Now, this was back in 2013. He had been beaten by his mother and boyfriend for months. Horrible, okay? A lot of people reported the abuse. Nothing was done. Gabriel's story is the focus of the Netflix doc, The Trials of Gabriel Fernandez. L.A. Deputy District Attorney Jonathan Hatami joins us now. It's good to see you, sir.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now, they say, listen, we do what we can. These are complicated situations. We're overstaffed. We're understaffed. We're crushed. We did the best we could. In this case with Corey, this little 6-year-old, hey, look, we went and visited. We assessed the best we could. Yeah, we saw this video, but we didn't really know what to make of it. Is that enough to get away with any real criminal responsibility for his death?
I mean, what happened to Corey is just tragic. And so first I want to express my condolences and my prayers to Corey's mom and to her family. This didn't need to happen. The government's number one job is to protect children, is to protect the most vulnerable. And what you saw on that video is what happens every day in many states where social workers refuse to talk to prosecutors. They refuse to talk to the public about what happens. In Corey's specific case, this didn't need to happen. He should have been removed from the father, but so many states believe in reunifying children, even with abusive parents, instead of removing them and protecting them. And a lot of that has to do with money. Many states don't want to spend the money to have to put kids in foster care or to provide them with protection. Also, many of the kids, like Gabriel Fernandez, and a lot of them are children of color. Many people don't care about them. They come from lower socioeconomic areas. And also, children can't vote. And so a lot of leaders, like you had that list of all these so-called leaders that basically are cowards, that refuse to come on your show and not only say they're sorry, but just explain what happened. I think we would all be okay if you said, hey, we made a mistake. We want to be better. The problem is that many times the Children Protective Services hides behind these confidentiality laws. And the only people that can ever expose them is the media to try to make them better. And so really what happened to Corey shouldn't have happened. It's despicable. It's sad. It's horrible. I can't even watch the video, and I deal with child murders on a daily basis. But being a father, you're just looking at that, and it makes you feel so horrible for Corey that he had to go through that every single day, and he was crying out, and nobody listened to him.
So what is the bar over which you can get them criminally for reckless disregard, as we have in the First Amendment? You knew this was happening and you ignored it anyway, and the kid died as a result. Is there a standard whereby you can go after them, or no? Are they held harmless because of their position?
So there should be. I agree with you that if a social worker commits gross negligence, and as a result of their gross negligence, a child under their care is tortured, injured, or murdered, and they did something negligent about it, and it's such gross negligence, they should be held criminally liable for that. However, states such as California and many other states in the United States don't allow us to prosecute social workers. The country is so much into prosecuting police officers for doing these things. They should also say, well, if you're a social worker, you're held to the same standard, and your job is to protect children. You should be also held criminally liable. In California, we tried to do it. The judge supported us. The court supported us. But it was the appellate courts and the legislature that don't support us. You get so many leaders who refuse to allow us to hold social workers accountable. A lot of it has to do with powerful unions and the fact that they support and protect a lot of their own. And a lot of it has to do with children who don't vote. So they don't have the power to try to sway these legislators. The only avenue that a lot of parents have is civilly, to civilly sue them to make them held responsible. We just don't have the criminal laws available to prosecute social work.
But unless you change policy and protocol, then it's just about money, which, of course, is never going to satisfy the loss of a child. Listen, Jonathan Hatami, thank you for fighting the good fight, and thank you for explaining it to the audience tonight. I appreciate you.
No, and thank you for all that you do, too, and keep doing it. It's the media that really helps a lot of these children, especially children who don't have no one to fight for them. You need to get up there and be their voice, and I appreciate all the work you're doing as well.
Thank you very much. All right, we're going to go to break. Let me make this very plain for you if you're watching, and I know you are. It's going to be me next time, okay? And it's not going to be as nice. People are going to know your face. They're going to know your name. So if you want to step up and explain this situation, there may be an explanation. Maybe we do need changes at the agency level. But if you duck it and think it's going to go away, I promise you it won't. Coming up, new 2-for-1 combo COVID flu shot. Could be a major breakthrough. Could not be. What are the pros? What are the cons? Next. Fluvid is so scary, especially for vulnerable populations, elderly, people who have lung issues, heart issues. Fluvid is COVID and the flu, especially at once. Real fear. Drug maker Moderna just released the results of a new trial for a 2-in-1 combination vaccine that offers protection against both influenza as well as COVID in one shot. Sound too good to be true? Will there be pushback from those who are still bitter about pandemic-era messaging and policies? Let's ask my old friend, former White House COVID Emergency Response Coordinator, the Dean of Brown University School of Public Health, Dr. Ashish Jha. It is good to see you, Dr. Jha. It's been a minute.
It has been a minute, Chris. Great to see you. Thanks for having me here.
So, Doc, give me your take on where we are with this 2-in-1, and then I want to have a dialogue that will likely exist with a certain percentage of our population. But what's your take on this? Yes or no, good or bad?
I'm optimistic. Look, preliminary data, I always like to look at the full set of data. Those data are not fully out yet. We're going to look at everything, make a decision. I'm not, the FDA is. But I've been pushing for this. I like this idea. Single shot makes it easy. You go in, you get one shot, you're done. Again, if the data pan out, I think this is going to be really convenient for a lot of folks.
All right, now here's the concerns. I'm not putting more mRNA in me. You guys lied to me the first time about it. I don't know how much spike protein it's going to make in me. Everybody's getting vaccine injured, and now you want me to do it again? This is only good for Moderna, not for me.
I hear that. I'll tell you, I'll start off by talking about what I advise my own family. I have elderly parents. They get COVID shots at least once a year. I get COVID shots once a year. It's what my family does. I just think from a safety and health point of view, to me, this is a no-brainer. mRNA, people get very kind of bent out of shape over it. Look, mRNA is in every single cell of your body. All your cells have DNA. DNA makes RNA. mRNA is one of the types. This is not some unusual substance. Literally every cell in your body has mRNA. And, you know, how many people have gotten COVID vaccines in America? 300 million, or between 250 and 300 million people. Most people have done very well with it. Most people have had very little in the way of reaction. So yeah, I get the concern, but my view on this is these vaccines are incredibly safe. They work really well. And that's why I continue encouraging my family to get it.
Not from Ashish Jha, but the messaging was mixed and muddled early on. This isn't really a vaccine, the mRNA stuff. It doesn't immunize you. It doesn't really stop transmission, except early on. And then the thing mutates too fast and the boosters can't keep up. And I'm not sure that I can trust the messaging this time either. How do you regain trust with a population that believes they were sold a bill of goods that was incomplete at a minimum?
Yeah, look, I think the way you restore trust with people is you just be honest and straightforward with them. I've tried throughout the whole pandemic to be honest and straightforward. We haven't gotten everything right, but that's fine. That's normal in a pandemic. You're learning as you go along. And yeah, the virus mutated, and that caused some of the initial benefits of the vaccines to wear down. But here's what we know, Chris. We still know people are getting sick and dying of this virus. Not that many, and certainly not compared to what we used to see. Almost all those people are elderly who have not kept up with their vaccines. So for me, the evidence on this is very clear, and the communication's got to be very straightforward. What do we know? What do we not know? That's why on this double shot, I didn't come out and say, hey, this is awesome. I said, look, let's look at the full set of data. If the data bear out, we'll do it. If the data don't bear out, we're not going to go forward with this.
Well, do you think it should be something where you don't mess with kids and you don't mess with the young and strong, just make it to the old and the vulnerable? And should that have been the rule during the pandemic? Should it have been no mandates for the young and healthy or the kids? They don't need it. No mandates except for the older. They can get it if they need it.
Yeah, so here's what we knew. Obviously, for older Americans, immunocompromised people, it was life-saving. What we also know, we saw this in the Delta wave, we saw this with Omicron as well, but certainly in the Delta wave, a lot of young people did still get pretty sick. So I always think back to what did I think was good for my family? Every one of my kids has gotten vaccinated. Obviously, my elderly parents, my wife. I think everybody's a bit better off. The kids are probably better off a little. The elderly are better off a lot. Mandates is a whole different issue. I get why people are frustrated with mandates. That was a long time ago. Certainly don't think we need mandates anymore moving forward. Mm-hmm. But I think it's really important, especially for older Americans, to keep up on their vaccines, and this is a great way to do it.
Mm-hmm. Ashish Jha, you've always been a straight shooter with me. I appreciate you. I rely on you, and we'll speak again.
Sounds great, Chris. Thanks for having me here.
Take care. We'll be right back.